Television Network. Live from London, this is The World Today.
Hello, I'm Jamie Owen. Welcome to the programme. Our top stories: hundreds of firefighters mobilised in Portugal as another European country is hit by wildfires. 40 people have now lost their lives. Our other headlines: China's senior diplomat Wang Yi heads to Turkey after his tour of Africa, with wide-ranging talks on the agenda. The bank boss, their famous Brexit customer, and the breach of confidence that has plunged NatWest into turmoil. And the countdown's on to the Paris Olympics, with a year to go till a unique opening ceremony on the River Seine. Wildfires have reached at least 9 countries across the Mediterranean, with thousands of firefighters in southern Europe and North Africa battling the flames, which are being stoked by strong winds. More than 40 people have now died, mostly in Algeria, but also in Italy and in Greece as fires spread. Our correspondent Li Jianhua reports.
Parts of another European nation engulfed in flames, this time Portugal. Aided by local residents, more than 600 firefighters were brought in on Tuesday to put out the flames that swept across a natural park near a popular holiday destination, Cascais. Authorities say no major injuries have been reported so far. In Algeria, wildfires have claimed the lives of at least 34 people. The fires broke out on Monday in numerous provinces, ripping through forests, groves and low-lying shrubland. This is what's left of a village after the fire was put out.
That's all I have. This is my livelihood. But what can I do? Look, everything is gone. I lost my house. We are waiting for the authorities to help us. Nobody checked on us. We don't even have water. We don't have food, clothes. Some volunteers gave me clothes. The authorities didn't check on us.
Elsewhere, wildfires broke out on the Spanish island of Gran Canaria on Tuesday, forcing authorities to evacuate several hundred villagers from their homes. Authorities said about 100 firefighters and 9 aircraft were deployed to put out the blaze. In Croatia, wildfires have spread to Dubrovnik in the south of the country on Tuesday, a popular area for tourists in the Adriatic. Strong winds and high temperatures caused the fires to spread quickly and made firefighting difficult. Over the past week, wildfires have forced evacuations in several other countries, including Italy, France and Greece. Li Jianhua, CGTN.
Well, the entire Greek island of Rhodes has been put into a state of emergency as wildfires there continue to burn, and an extreme risk alert has also been issued for 6 new regions in Greece. Our correspondent Evangelo Sipsas is on the island of Rhodes. Evangelo, what's the latest where you are?
Well, as you mentioned, the island of Rhodes is now in a state of emergency. The whole island has been declared a state of emergency 9 days after the wildfires continue to burn in the southern part of the island. Right now, as we are speaking, there is still a fire front that is uncontrollable. The firefighters are trying to put it out. There's a number of helicopters, hundreds of firefighters also from different parts of Europe, from Slovakia, from Romania, from Serbia, are on the ground here trying to put out the fire. Unfortunately, over the night, many areas were evacuated, and we were ourselves on the scene, and we experienced the flames going through 2 villages. The good thing is that no one was injured or lost their lives. Everybody was evacuated quite fast, but the problem is the fire continues to burn. And today there's not strong winds like they were a few days ago, but the fire still continues. Now, as also in the previous report mentioned, that people did lose their lives. 2 firefighters flying a Canadair did crash trying to put out the fire on the island of Evia and Caristo. Those 2 young men have lost their lives. The country has also declared 3 days of mourning because of these pilots. But as you mentioned, also a number of other places are also on fire.
Evangelo, you've been briefing us on roads. Can you give us a broad brush of the situation in the rest of Greece?
Unfortunately, I wish I could say that things are much better at the moment, but there is an uncontrollable fire burning just 200 kilometers north of the Greek capital of Athens in the area of Lamia. 2 villages had to be evacuated. People are being taken to safety. It's uncontrollable there as well. But just north of that, in the city of Volos, outside of the city of Volos, a seaside city in the Thessaly region, somewhere in the center of Greece, there's another fire that is uncontrollable right now. Villages had to be evacuated there. People were taken to safety. There's a lot of firefighters on the scene there too. But there's so many fire fronts right now in the country. There's the 2 that I just mentioned here on the island of Rhodes. There is in Evia. There is on Corfu. So the number of people that are mobilized are not enough to tackle these fires. That's why there's a lot of people from abroad that come in. But the state mechanism right now has been stretched to its limits. It's very difficult to tackle these fires. And as we've been reporting yesterday on the island of Corfu, the mayor has been saying that he has suspicions that the fire in the northern part of the island were as a result of an arson. Even the anti-terror unit from Athens is on the ground investigating the scene. But scientists are also warning now that as days are going by, temperatures will continue to rise, and we're experiencing another heat wave with high temperatures and low humidity levels, and almost the whole country right now, as we speak, is in high alert for wildfires.
Evangelo, thank you for that. Our correspondent Evangelo Sipsas in Rhodes. Well, climate change and natural disasters are adding to severe hardships already being faced by many people in Afghanistan. Monsoon rains have been lashing parts of the country over the last month or so, killing dozens of people. Aid is being provided, but there are calls for much more. Our correspondent Zamaralai Abasan reports.
The hazards of climate change have already caused a nightmarish situation in Afghanistan, one of the world's most vulnerable countries, with the majority of the population already facing starvation. According to the authorities, more than 8 provinces witnessed recent flash floods. On my way to Jalrez, the worst-hit district in central Afghanistan, I saw industrial factories washed out by the recent flash floods in Arghali district of Kabul. Around $1 million of loss was estimated.
The floods have affected us so much. All of our machinery was damaged. We want national and international organizations to support us.
The recent floods have been catastrophic in several parts of Afghanistan, but this is the hardest to reach area.
I'm in Takana village of Jalrez district of Maidan Wardak province. Here the rescue and search operation still continues.
Saifullah, who survived the disaster, says the immediate needs of local people are drinking water, food and shelter. But a permanent solution must be found to help them stay safe during the monsoon that leads to flash floods almost every year in their village.
We lost 23 family members and also 2 others in our neighborhood. 25 people died. It is really hard for us.
The UN and some other international organizations rushed to the affected area, providing first aid, food and shelter, along with the de facto ministries. The local Taliban authorities are urging international aid agencies to accelerate humanitarian assistance.
It's a difficult situation for these families who have lost their loved ones, their houses and livestock. They're asking the international community to step up in such a difficult time because they say they should not mix up political and humanitarian affairs. Zamaralai Abasan, CGTN, Maidan Wardak, Afghanistan.
The northern Philippines continue to suffer the effects of Typhoon Doksuri, with thousands of people now without power. The storm pounded coastal areas with gale force winds of up to 175 kilometers per hour. Doksuri is expected to gain strength as it makes its way towards China, where the authorities have issued an alert bracing for what could be the worst storm in a decade. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi faces a no-confidence vote in Parliament triggered by an alliance of opposition parties. His government has been sharply criticised over its response to ethnic clashes in the country's northeast, in which over 130 people have been killed and 60,000 displaced. Modi's BJP has a large parliamentary majority, so the vote is unlikely to succeed. A delegation from China has arrived in the DPRK to join celebrations marking 70 years since the end of hostilities in the Korean War. Russia's Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu is attending the event. They're the first official visits to the country since it's closed its borders to try to control the COVID-19 pandemic. China's senior diplomat is in Turkey's capital, Ankara. He's in the country for talks on a range of issues, including regional security. Our correspondent Mikhail Bardavid reports.
Senior diplomat of China, Mr. Wang Yi, arrived at the Turkish capital this morning, where he was welcomed by a Turkish delegation. He later met with the Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan, and currently he is in talks with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. We do have some notes from what Mr. Wang Yi has already stated during these talks. Just to give you 3 examples from his statements, he stated that disputes should be resolved through dialogue and consultation. He also stressed the importance of open and inclusive attitude for common development. And Mr. Wang Yi also emphasized that China aims to work with Turkey to advance Belt and Road Initiative cooperation for the Belt and Road Initiative. And Turkey joined the Belt and Road Initiative in 2015, and since then China invested in many different areas in Turkey, in energy, in port facilities, and infrastructure. So many win-win cooperation opportunities were present for these two countries, but they do hope to increase their cooperation in the upcoming years, and this is one of the emphasis that Mr. Wang Yi stated during his talks with Mr. Hakan Fidan, the Turkish foreign minister. And just to give you an example of one of these investments, in 2015, again that year, 3 state-owned Chinese companies acquired a 65% stake at Kumport, which is a container terminal which connects the Black Sea and the Mediterranean. So a very strategic investment by China at the time. Trade volume is also at around $44 billion last year, but the two countries are hoping to increase that level to about $50 billion in the upcoming year. So I think economic cooperation is also on the agenda for the talks during today's visit for Mr. Wang Yi here in Turkey.
You're watching CGTN. Still ahead, shares in one of the UK's leading banks fall. The boss steps down after a breach of confidentiality about one of their most famous customers.
There's a new agenda for a new world, accelerating change in almost every part of our lives. It's shifting the norms of how we work, travel, and connect. How we think, interact, and develop. It's a new reality, a new agenda with me, Juliette Mann.
Ever wondered what's the difference between a bear and a bull market? Where are the cash cows? And who are the lame ducks? And what exactly are black swans? Grey rhinos? And unicorn companies? Make sense of it all with Global Business, only on CGTN.
This week on Radio. You can hear the bells over the hill there. It's a herd of cows on their way home, protected by guardian dogs.
I'm working with dogs to protect, to conserve wolves, but for me, dogs are more important because I deal with them every day.
Hello, welcome back. A reminder of our top stories. Hundreds of firefighters mobilized in Portugal as another European country is hit by wildfires. 40 people have now lost their lives. And China's senior diplomat Wang Yi heads to Turkey after his tour of Africa with wide-ranging talks on the agenda. The chief executive of a major UK bank has resigned after admitting she made errors when speaking to journalists about a high-profile political customer. A long-running row involving the bank, the BBC and Brexit campaigner Nigel Farage has raised questions about free speech and the rights of banks to choose their customers. Our correspondent, Yolo Ap Dawid, has been following the story. Well, this has been rumbling for weeks now, so just remind us how it all started.
Commercially and politically, this is a big story. Why? Because the NatWest Bank, the NatWest Group, is a huge bank. It has 19 million customers in the United Kingdom, and it has around 60,000 employees globally. Now, that is important. It also, one of its subsidiary groups is Coutts Bank, which is a private bank for people with lots of money, either £3 million in savings or that you have a mortgage which is over £1 million. Now, Nigel Farage is a well-known politician and political campaigner in the UK. He's also known in right-wing circles outside Britain because he was one of the big campaigners against Brexit to get Britain out of the European Union. Now, it seems that the former chief executive, Alison Rose, wrote comments and told that to a BBC journalist that he wasn't desirable as one of the customers. And that's what this story is about. But it's bigger than that because it is about confidentiality, which should be the cornerstone of just about every bank on the planet in terms of its customers. And it's also about the kind of, can banks, not just NatWest, but other big banks as well, can they refuse customers because of their political views or their stance, their moral stance on different subjects. Now, I say that Mr. Farage is divisive because, you know, he's compared Black Lives Matter protests, for instance, to the Taliban. He also said that the RNLI, the sea rescue service around the coast of Britain, was like a taxi service for illegal immigrants. He has that turn of phrase. He's very popular on social media, but he's also a very divisive figure. He's tried to be Member of Parliament 7 times and failed 7 times. But here, his argument and his complaint, and he went on Twitter last night and he said that Dame Alison Rose, a few hours before she was stood down, he said that she has admitted that she's the source for the BBC story. The BBC has apologised, is unfit to be CEO. She's stood down now. And also, more than that, as well as Sir Howard Davis, the chairman of NatWest, he wants the entire board of NatWest to step down. That's 10 people, as well as Alison Rose and Sir Howard Davis. Now, this story is commercially and very political as well.
And all of this has now prompted the UK government to get involved and call for changes.
Yes, and it's likely there will be changes. For instance, the City Minister from the Finance Department of the UK government, Andrew Griffith, he met banks and building societies and lenders today because they obviously think they have to tighten the regulations. Banks may well have to give 3 months' notice to customers if they are closing their accounts, and they may well have to explain why they're closing those accounts. And all this has become a little bit of a political wrangling, but there will be hundreds of people, maybe even thousands of people, Jamie, who will be concerned if they can't access a bank account, because it seemed to be, you know, a civil right, a human right, like having energy at home, like having clean water delivered by one of the water companies. Having access to a bank account is hugely important. So it's actually bigger than just the political story in Britain at the moment.
Yolo, thank you for that. Our correspondent, Yolo Ap Dawid. Presidential guards in Niger are holding President Mohamed Bazoum and have blockaded the presidential palace. President Bazoum said the army was ready to attack them if they did not back down. No shots have been fired, and it's not yet clear if this is an attempt by the Presidential Guard to try to seize power. More on this as we get it. One person is dead and several others have been injured after a fire ripped through a cargo ship off the Dutch coast carrying nearly 3,000 vehicles. The Dutch Coast Guard says the fire may last for days. Many crew members were forced to jump overboard to escape the blaze. The ship was en route from Germany to Egypt. More than 50 pilot whales have died after a mass stranding on a remote beach in Australia. Marine experts and volunteers camped overnight at Cheney's Beach, southeast of Perth, after the whales were found washed up nearby. Rescue teams are trying to return the remaining 46 whales to deeper water. The Oscar-winning actor Kevin Spacey has been found not guilty of sex offences at his trial in London. The 63-year-old actor was cleared of 9 charges, which included 7 counts of sexual assault against 4 men. The incidents were alleged to have occurred between 2001 and 2013. Kevin Spacey denied all the charges and insists he never abused his power as a top Hollywood actor. The countdown is on to the 2024 Paris Olympics with a year to go till the opening ceremony. This will be the 3rd time the Summer Games have been held in Paris, with the French capital also hosting in 1900 and 1924. Plans are already in place for the launch to be different, held on the River Seine, right in the heart of the city. Our correspondent Ross Cullen is in Paris. Ross, so a year to go to the day. What can we expect from the Paris Olympic Games?
Yeah, that's right, Jamie. Excitement building in Paris now that the official 12-month countdown has got underway until the Olympics and Paralympics come here to the French capital. Here's our report marking 1 year to go.
A party atmosphere in Paris as the French capital marks 12 months until the 2024 Olympic Games. The official torch, which will hold the Olympic flame, was unveiled to start the 1-year countdown. Sprint legend Usain Bolt was on hand to mark the occasion. The Paris torch will be made by the Indian steel giant ArcelorMittal from recycled and renewable sources. The president of the organising committee says Paris 2024 is trying to set an example of improved climate awareness and gender equality. 95% of the venues already exist or will be temporary. Only the aquatics venue and the athletes' village are being built from scratch. The location for the opening ceremony is also already in place.
On the 26th of July 2024, in exactly 1 year's time, this is where the Olympic opening ceremony will take place on the River Seine in Paris.
A flotilla of nearly 200 boats will carry the flag bearers from the competing nations, with hundreds of thousands of spectators expected to line the banks of the river to watch the ceremony. French luxury giant LVMH is a premium sponsor of the 2024 Paris Olympics, a move that will help the organisers reach their sponsorship targets of $1.37 billion. Other major domestic sponsors include communications company Orange, electricity provider EDF, pharmaceuticals company Sanofi, and retail giant Carrefour.
Nos maisons sont même, à bien des égards,
in many ways, I believe our brands are the symbol of France, of its elegance, its audacity, and its style. So it's only natural that we should lend our support to an event that will shine a worldwide spotlight on France, and Paris in particular.
There is still work to do on security arrangements for the ambitious opening ceremony, allocating the remaining tickets, finalising the sporting schedule and finishing the building or inspection work at the competition arenas. But 7 years after it was awarded the 2024 Games, the preparations in the French capital are now entering the home straight.
Yeah, Jamie, you said that Paris will become the 3rd city to host the Olympics 3 times. Quite a symmetry after 1924, the 2nd time it hosted it, to 2024. Following London, and LA will become the next city to host the Games 3 times in 2028. We have also had some analysis out from a firm called Grace Note, which have been predicting how the Paris 2024 medals table might look at the Olympics. No surprise, perhaps, they put the United States at the top, China 2nd. They say that the hosts, France, will come 3rd in the medals table, with Britain 4th.
Ross, thank you for that. Our correspondent Ross Cullen in Paris. Well, Tony Estanguet is the president of Paris 2024. He's been telling CGTN why France has a special connection with the modern Olympics.
C'est très important effectivement pour la France d'accueillir à nouveau les Jeux.
It has been 100 years since we last welcomed the Summer Games. You know, France has a particular link with the Olympic Games because it was here in Paris that Baron Pierre de Coubertin decided to relaunch the modern Olympic Games by creating the International Olympic Committee at the Sorbonne on June 23, 1894. There really is a historical aspect at play here. France will once again welcome the world and the Olympic Games, and that is why there is real enthusiasm and why we feel that there is a real desire to offer the best of our country. These Olympics will be incredibly spectacular. We are going to start the celebration with the torch relay, where we will go to Mont Saint-Michel, to the Cannes Film Festival. We will go to the beaches of Normandy, somewhere the most beautiful mountains in our country, the most beautiful beaches, the most beautiful museums will be celebrated with the torch relay. And during the Olympics, there are also going to be exceptional moments because we will have the most beautiful places in our country transformed into sports fields. And so it's going to be sporting emotions and cultural emotions from our heritage.
Des émotions sportives et des émotions culturelles.
Japan are into the last 16 at the Women's World Cup after a 2-0 win over Costa Rica. The 2011 champions scored twice in the 3 minutes during the first half. Japan play Spain in their final group match. Costa Rica are now out of the competition after losing both of their opening games. Spain are also into the next round. They beat Zambia by 5-0 with Jenny Hermoso and Alba Redondo both scoring twice, knocking Zambia out of this tournament. If Spain avoid defeat against Japan next week, they'll finish top of the group. And Olympic champions Canada recovered from conceding the fastest goal at the tournament so far to beat the Republic of Ireland and send them home. Ireland took a surprise lead after 4 minutes, but Canada equalised just before half-time and added a second after the interval to secure their first win. And finally, Russia's Bolshoi Ballet has returned to China with a show at Beijing's National Center for the Performing Arts. It's the company's first international tour since the COVID pandemic. Some of their planned overseas performances were cancelled after the start of the war in Ukraine. Several shows are scheduled in Beijing, and then the ballet will head to Minsk in November and then Oman in January next year. The headlines again. Hundreds of firefighters are mobilised in Portugal as another European country is hit by wildfires. 40 people have now lost their lives. Our other headlines, China's senior diplomat Wang Yi heads to Turkey after his tour of Africa with wide-ranging talks on the agenda. And the bank boss, their famous Brexit customer, and the breach of confidence plunges NatWest Bank into turmoil. And that is the world today. Thank you for watching. There's more news on CGTN Europe's channel on the Telegram app, or scan the QR code on the screen to get stories and updates sent direct to your phone. We're back with more news at the top of this hour. Coming up next, it's World Insight. For now, from all of the team in London, it's goodbye.
This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.